Hey Bookends! Welcome to a 10-minute book review. I'm 10. This week's book review is going to be on Joshua Nagan, Last Prince of, let me make sure I say this right, Alkebulahn. Alkebulahn, Joshua Nagan, Last Prince of Alkebulan, by Anthony Hewitt. We like to start off each one of our book reviews with a star point, as in out of 10 stars, how many stars does this book honor, and also a rating, as in if this was a movie or a TV show, what would it be rated, PG, R, what have you. So for the book itself, it's going to be an 8 out of 10 stars. It was really good. It didn't get to 10, but that doesn't mean it was just not a good book. And as a rating, this is definitely a PG. There is some violence, but it's not to the degree where a 12-year-old would be having nightmares. By the way, if you're wondering about what I'm wearing, because it's so colorful, autism! Because it's Autism Awareness Month. You don't have to donate or anything, just learn about autism, next autistic person you see. Or if you see a kid fussing in the store, you know, cut the mom or dad or grandpa, whoever it is, grandma, some slack. Now, diving right in, this book starts off with Joshua, who, so it's in England, and of course I'm located in America, so I believe that their school system is a little different. It might not be that different, it might just be in the books I've read, but I believe he's starting his 9th year, so I want to say that he's a freshman. I want to say he's a freshman in high school, and he's in a gifted and talented kind of a boarding school. Now here's the thing though, it starts off with him fidgeting with this like device that's supposed to be real technical, like kind of spacey. He doesn't really know what it is, and no one else really knows what it is either, or at least no one's telling him anyway, but it's on his wrist. And so he's doing like these awesome super cool moves on a skateboard. So he's really great at that, but then he gets to school and he finds, like, I don't want to say he's a dunce, because he's not a dunce in school. He's just not good at it. So what confused me, and even one of the characters in the book says, how do you stay in this school? You, like, flunk everything. How do you stay? And that was my concern, too. It's like, okay, granted, I'm not great in school either. Never have been. I get that. But if he doesn't get straight A's or at least straight B's, something to that effect, how is he able to stay in a boarding school where it's for the gifted and talented? Also, he comes from a poor family. He lives in an estate, I guess, which is the England or London version of a project. America, we call them the projects. I guess in England they call them the estates, because it sounds nicer. Don't know. But he comes from a bad area. So I'm assuming that how he got into this school wasn't for money. You know, no one's paying it, to my knowledge. So he must have got in by a scholarship. So how is he able to maintain the scholarship if he's not maintaining his grades? But anyway, he ends up getting into a fight. This is the second chapter. So he's in this school with these gifted and talented kids, and yet there are bullies who are willing to get into fights. Now, I don't know how things are in England, but I know in America, if you're in a gifted and talented school, there's not going to be any fighting, because you can be right out that school. There's passive-aggressive actions, like mental bullying, cyberbullying, things like that. But outright kids standing in a circle and 2 kids in the middle fighting, that kind of stuff, it ain't gonna happen. There's too many public schools here for someone to be fighting in a gifted and talented. Like, you can gift and talent yourself right over to PS 103. PS 103, like public school 103. So yeah, it starts off with him getting into a fight. Kind of wins the fight, and then he speaks to a professor or a doctor. Well, when I say doctor, but I think it's like a doctor in education, and he's really nice. He's encouraging Joshua to do better, but he's not really giving it to him. Like, you know, with the other kids, they would come out of his room dazed or confused or crying, because he would give it to him. He'd be like, don't be dumb. This is not a school for dumb kids. Don't be dumb. You want to stay here? Don't be dumb. But when it comes to Joshua, it's like, listen, bruh, I know, or should I say bruv? Because apparently in England they don't say bruh, they say bruv. So like, listen, bruv, you can do better. I know you can do better. You gonna do better. Just do better. Summer's coming. Just do better. So I found that a little bit confusing. I found the whole boarding school situation to be confusing only because, not because the boarding school itself is confusing, but because of how the character fit into it. It just didn't seem to fit. You're not that smart. You don't play any sports. It actually says, like, he deliberately said he didn't want to play any sports. He has great reflexes. He don't want to play any sports. So you're not that smart academically. You don't play sports, so no sports scholarship. And you broke. You're not rich. How are you in this school? How? How did you manage this? So there's also this other boy in the school too. He's like rich. He's like posh. I think he's like Nigerian. I think he's Nigerian, but he's English. So I guess his family is based in Nigeria, but he's in England. And he's kind of like an antagonist towards him. But that doesn't last very long, because you only spend the first couple of pages of the book in high school because they're going on summer break. When he leaves for summer break, he gets home and you find out that he's adopted. He lives with a Jamaican family, but he's been adopted since birth, like since he was a baby. So he calls them mom and dad. His dad is in prison. You don't find out why until like later on. But his dad's in prison. His big brother is, I don't want to say a stoner because he's not, but he's like hanging out. Like, he's not like always on drugs or anything like that, but he's hanging out, you know, trying to be hip or whatever. I think he's like 19. I think his older brother's like 19. And so basically he has a very loving family. He ain't the brightest at school. He got people who try to bully him. But he does have his own group of friends. And I thought it was funny. It's like, they're called the Barack Obama house. So, you know, pop culture reference. Now, here's the thing I couldn't understand. You know, I'll get into the things I can't understand later. So, we have Joshua Nagon. Then we also have, okay, his name is Kanu. So, we also have Kanu. So, we meet Kanu, who's a grown man, when there's some kind of tribunal being held about something that he's done. And his cousin, who's a king, is presiding over his trial. And the verdict is that he's guilty, and the punishment is that his mind is going to be wiped and he's going to be left in the gutter on earth. So apparently Kanu is some kind of professor or scientist or mad scientist. Basically, he has his own agenda, and he did everything that he did to get sent to Earth on purpose. And you find out why, at least it's part of Earth on purpose. And when you find out why towards the end of the book, and depends on how you look on it. So let's get to the good. Let's get to the not so good. The good is that Joshua is a normal black teen. He wasn't given a black scent. He wasn't made to be in the drug scene or the hip hop scene or the, like, yes, he did listen to hip hop music. I think one time he was like skateboarding to school and he was listening to Nas. And so yes, he does listen to hip hop. There are a lot of black kids who like to listen to hip hop. Yes, he listens to rap. There are a lot of black kids who like to listen to rap. But they didn't make him like smoke. They didn't make him do drugs. They didn't make him sneak out to be drinking. Like, they didn't give him the stereotypical African-American, I shouldn't say African-American because in England, the stereotypical black character traits. So I did appreciate that. Also, too, I love black love. And he's in love with a girl by the name of Zion, who her father is a Rasta. Which makes sense because he was raised by Jamaicans and Jamaica is really all he knows. And I know that there is a heavy Jamaican population in England. So it does make sense. And yeah, that's nice. Also too, what I really enjoyed was that, okay, so this happens sometimes with black characters. Even though the black character is the main character, the one who's supposed to save the day, there's a white character or some other model minority who really does the saving, if that makes any sense. If I can think of a book that's like that, well, I can think of a book that's like that, I just can't think of the name of it, but where like the protagonist is African American or black in some way, but the person who actually saves the day is the either white or model minority sidekick, because they're the ones who figure out the way around, even though the protagonist is the one who actually goes through the actions. So I'm happy that the character Joshua Nagan was the actual one to save the day. Also too, I found it interesting that, so basically I believe this is like a term of endearment, or a letter, I should say a letter of endearment to Black Panther, because the premise is kind of the same. It's supposed to be like this African nation, or this African-esque nation that is technologically advanced, and Joshua is a part of them, but he was raised apart from them for reasons that you have to read the book to find out about. And it's almost like if T'Challa and his cousin were one person. Like how you have this prince of this population of technologically advanced Africans, and then you also have that same person being raised in an area where they are lower on the totem pole. If you like African American superheroes, if you want to feel like a kid again but not feel like a 12-year-old, because I don't really want to be a 12-year-old again, this is the book for you. If you enjoy adventure and sci-fi and intelligent bad guys, like intelligent bad guys that you can kind of like get behind, because Kano sounded like he was kind of cute and he had brains too, so I'm not mad. I would like to meet Kanu. He'd probably get mad if I say his name wrong if I met him. Anyway, also too, there are a lot of black and brown characters in this book, so I found that to be really nice. They were good black characters, they were bad black characters, they were just side black characters, and I enjoyed seeing so many different versions of myself and the people that I know in a book. I also enjoyed how thick the family unit was. Like, even though Frederick, who's Joshua's adopted dad, was in prison, he loved his children. And I loved, okay, there was a scene in the book with Frederick and Maria. So Frederick and Maria, they're both Jamaican. So Maria takes Joshua to go see Frederick in prison, you know, to go visit, because your dad in jail, you go see him. Now, Kenneth, who is Joshua's older brother, didn't want to go because he's like, I'm not going to go with you crying and stuff, Ma, because I'm 19 and I'm cool and I can't do that kind of stuff. So Joshua goes with them, with, you know, his mom. And when she sees Frederick, she gives Frederick this huge hug. Why? Because she loves her husband. It don't matter that he's in prison. She loves her husband. And what does he do? He hugs her back. And he holds her hand as they sit together and talk with Joshua. He doesn't have a side chick who's coming to visit him on the Sundays that his wife is coming to, like, not coming to visit him. You don't got side kids coming and saying like, hi, this is my dad too. No. I found that family unit to be beautiful. And the reason why is because, yes, in the African American community, a lot of our men do become institutionalized. Whether it be their fault or not, it does happen. But just because that happens, that doesn't mean that the family unit is broken. It is impacted, yes. It is most certainly impacted. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it is broken. And some would like you to believe that because a father figure or parental figure goes to prison, then that automatically starts a downward spiral for the children, and that person automatically extradites themselves from their family's lives and from the lives of their children. And that is simply not true. There are plenty of DOC buses that are filled, DOC visitation buses that are filled with families going to see their incarcerated family members in prison. That's why they have the DOC visitation buses. I know in New Jersey, most of the prisons are out in South Jersey. They do that on purpose. They take the people from South Jersey, bring them over to North Jersey to put them in prison. They take the people from North Jersey, put them in South Jersey, put them in prison. So I guess to make it difficult for them to see their family. I don't know the politics behind that. But they do have the DOC visitation buses that come every other Sunday. And they do take families, like 5 of them or something. They take families over to the prisons so they can go see their significant others, fathers, mothers, brothers, kids, whoever, in prison. And then, of course, bring them back. So I love how the family unit was still intact, even though it was impacted. And I love how the author showed that even though it was impacted, Joshua still had that strong love for his father, and that his father still had that strong love for him, and that Maria still had her strong love for her husband. And as it turned out, he went to jail on a righteous anyway. I don't know. Okay. So if you don't know what a righteous is, like going to jail on a righteous is like going to jail for doing something bad but for a good reason. You would do it over again if you were put in the same position. That's called a righteous. So his father ended up going to jail on a righteous anyway, and his woman stood by him. And his kids still loved him. So yeah, I thought that was beautiful. It has nothing to do with sci-fi, but I just thought that that depiction of the family unit, of the black family unit, was beautiful. It just showed the different levels of black love and how deep it can be even when situations get hard. The bad. I think this is a trait that I see in a lot of books that are either set in England or in the UK or are written by authors who are English or from the United Kingdom. And I think I see this trait because perhaps I'm American and I like to get straight to the point when it comes to things. And so getting to know Joshua, getting to know his family, getting to know his surroundings, getting to know his past. That was the first 24 chapters, and that was 24 chapters too much for me. I think we could have gone through maybe 5 or 6 chapters of getting to know him and then started the actual action from chapter 6. So I felt like it was, I don't want to say build up because it wasn't building up to anything. There was just too much information about him given in the beginning. I already cared about him because of how they set it up in the beginning. How he's, you know, living this life. He has this like high-tech thing on his arm. Doesn't really know what it is. Doesn't really know how to control it, but it helps. He has these bullies at school. He's living with an adopted parent who's been raising him since he was a baby, even though she knows who his real parents are. Like, the setup was already good. And there was a lot of meandering that took place between chapter 6 and chapter 24 that I didn't think was necessary. Me personally. So between chapter 6 and chapter 24, I really felt like a lot of that could have been either condensed or cut out completely. Also, too, there was a lot of going back, like back and forward in time. A lot of it. So we go back 4 years from Joshua. We go back 15 years for Kano. And there's a reason for it. It's not for no reason. There is a reason for it. But I felt as though a lot of that could have been taken care of if there was a prologue, a condensed prologue, or even a prequel. Like, if this book had done well, then I think that back and forth, going back into the past and coming forward, could have been put all together in a prequel and taken out of this book, because it kind of takes you out the action. It's like once the action does start up, It's like you're reading this action, you're trying to get into it, and then you're going back 15 years. And now you're forward again. And now you're going back 4 years. And now you're forward again. And so I found that to be annoying. Also, too, what was bothering me? There's something about Kanu that bothered me, but I can't really think about it right now. As you can see, the things that bothered me about the book were really pet peevey, kind of. It wasn't that the book was bad, it just, there were certain aspects of it that I think could have been left by either by the wayside, or left out of this book and put in a prequel, or condensed down and put into a prologue. There was too much. It is an indie book, so you will find little errors. Like, I think one chapter was repeated twice by accident. But that's what you would expect with a prequel, because of course, not a prequel, I'm sorry, with an independent book, because indie authors are depending upon themselves and upon indie editors, and so sometimes things slip through. Please don't let that, like, stuff like that be a deterrent. Please don't let stuff like that be a deterrent. You'll find mistakes in larger books too, but I think indie authors are the ones who are more affected by it, so please don't let that be a deterrent. The grammar is wonderful. The pacing is wonderful. Aside from those first 24 chapters, when I say pacing, grammar is good throughout the book. But the pacing, if you can fight through those first 24, you know, I actually enjoyed chapter 1 through 6. So if you can fight through chapter 7 through 24, you're golden. You're golden. I'm pretty sure there's going to be more books in a series. I hope this is a series. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be more. So I can't wait to read more and find out more about Joshua Nagon's life. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Something I found was interesting too, how he's like of African heritage, or this African tribal heritage. You know, his first name is Joshua. It's very telling in the African, let's just say, I keep going back to African American, but in black culture, we have either these really black sounding names and then these Anglo surnames, or it's the other way around. We have our African cousins who have these really Anglo sounding first names, and these really ethnic sounding last names. And I think that's a way of, for us, for African Americans, us having these ethnic sounding first names, it's a way of us reconnecting with a heritage that we lost and will never be able to fully get back. And with Africans having these very Anglo sounding first names, it's a way of dealing with colonization, being able to web themselves in, but still have their surname so that they're not totally forgotten who they are. This has been a 10-minute book review. Once again, I'm 10. If you like what you see, then please like and subscribe, and have a wonderful day. Bye, Bookends.